Well, that didn't go as expected. We're expecting this classic showdown. All-time great quarterback versus the GOAT. It's going to be an offensive explosion. There's going to be points all over the place. It's going to be a shootout. It's going to be all those things that didn't happen. Instead, this felt a lot more like 80s and 90s Super Bowls where the NFC was dominant on all sides of the ball and all facets of the game, and the AFC champion looked outmanned and overwhelmed and overmatched. Those of you that are too young to remember that period in Super Bowl history, there was a decade and a half plus stretch in the 80s and 90s where the NFC whooped up on the AFC pretty much every year. That's what this Super Bowl tonight felt like. My goodness. And this is what I get for going against the gutted sick. I even alluded to it in my Super Bowl preview video. I went against my gut. I talked about all these things that were pointing in the Bucs' favor and stayed trying to be a Mahomes mark, and that's what I get. Like, imagine thinking that Andy Reid would find all of the magic once again in the Super Bowl. You tempted fate if you expected that to happen a second go-round here. Good Christ almighty. What did we just see tonight? When the game started early on, you thought, okay, team starting off a little slow. The defenses are kind of showing up. The offenses are taking a little time to get into their rhythm. Chiefs got on the board first with the field goal, then the Bucs immediately responded with a touchdown right before the end of the first quarter. And think about it. Tom Brady's played in 10 Super Bowls. It's the first touchdown drive he's ever had in a Super Bowl in the first quarter. That's insane. The dude's played in two full hands worth of Super Bowls, and that's the first time he's ever had a team of his score a touchdown in the first quarter on offense. That's nuts. But you're looking at it after one, you're saying, okay, it's 7-3. You better put up some points, Tampa, because if you let the Chiefs get into their rhythm and flow, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And that never really manifested. The Chiefs were able to move the ball some, but you could just see the trouble that they had. It was clear and obvious. The Buccaneers defensively were winning with their front four. They were getting consistent pressure, heavy pressure on Patrick Mahomes. It was disrupting the rhythm of what the Chiefs wanted to do on offense. They were doing a great job of kind of shadowing and covering Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and forcing others in the Chiefs' passing game to beat them, and they couldn't. And even when you say that, though, and you look at another example where the Bucs score a touchdown, they're up, and you get to that goal line stand and you're saying, oh crap, that might have been a big play. In the grand scheme of things, it ended up not being. It just means that the Buccaneers didn't win by nearly as much. When you had that goal line stand, and even there, it looked like, I thought maybe dude got across the line, but he didn't. I thought Rojo got across, and he didn't. And I was thinking, man, maybe that's a momentum piece, because early on in the game, it was clear that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at that moment were the much better all-around football team. They were the ones playing better complementary football. Their defense was playing well. Their offense was efficient, moving the ball down the field, balanced. But you always know, and you have sitting there in the back of your mind, that with Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, that they're going to start scoring some points. They're going to find themselves. And you keep going back to last year's Super Bowl. And that just never happened. Again, in the Super Bowl, just like they did in the NFC Championship game, the Buccaneers stole a touchdown late, right before the half. And you turn around and look, and they're up 21-6. And even then, as you're waiting for the weekend to get the halftime show over with and everything, you're sitting there saying, okay, the Bucs are in a good spot. They're up 15 points. They're technically at home for the Super Bowl. What a nice, fortunate break that is. But man, still a lot of time left in this game. And you're talking about Patrick Mahomes, and you're talking about Andy Reid, and you're talking about Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. They're going to figure it out at some point. They're going to turn it on. They got the ball first to start the second half. So they'll go down, they'll score a touchdown, and that didn't happen. They kick a field goal, and it's 21-9. Yeah, not going to be enough on this day. What do the Bucs immediately do? Leonard Fournette, a couple of minutes later, 27-yard touchdown run. it's 28-9. And even then, you're sitting there and you're stubbornly holding on to this thought that the Chiefs can still make this a game. The Chiefs are going to come back, and this is going to get hot. This is going to get close. And it never did. The Buccaneers kicked another field goal in the third quarter. It was 31-9, which is ultimately what the final score ended up being. That's crazy. And it's crazy first because you think about it. Tom Brady, age 43, after almost 2 decades in New England, at the tail end of his career, leaves the confines of the Belichick way to go somewhere else, to go down to Tampa, of all places, a team that finished 7-9 last year. And he goes on to make his 10th appearance in the Super Bowl. 10th appearance in the Super Bowl. And he wins his 7th Lombardi Trophy, his 5th Super Bowl MVP. All of that with only throwing for like 201 yards and 3 touchdowns. Wasn't exactly like a spectacular banner, Brady performance, but it certainly was enough to get the job done. Some Bucs fans might sit there and say like a Devin White maybe should have been Super Bowl MVP. I would argue if Gronk would have ended up with over 100 yards receiving in the game, I would have went for him being the Super Bowl MVP. But it's crazy to think about. This dude went to Tampa in a COVID year with the pandemic, no real offseason, all of this, trying to get all these pieces to fit together, and all this team did was went on the road and won 3 straight playoff games to get to the Super Bowl, to get a home game in the Super Bowl, and it is the Super Bowl when they finally get the home game, and they spank the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. The GOAT got his 7th. And let's be clear here. If you're still trying to fight against Tom Brady being the GOAT, what the hell is wrong with you? You could always sit there and hide behind that crutch of, oh, he's a system quarterback. He just went to Tampa and won a Super Bowl in his first season there in his fucking 40s. Shut the hell up. It's over. It's been over way before this game. It's been long over that debate. He's only adding notches to his brag sheet at this point. Incredible. For the Chiefs, it was clearly obvious that the loss of Eric Fisher, and other problems throughout that offensive line. You even go back to Duvernay-Tardif opting out before the season, like multiple starters on this Chiefs offensive line, just of critical importance for a guy like Patrick Mahomes, were not there, and it showed. It really, really, really showed. They weren't able to consistently run the ball. And in terms of their pass protection against Mahomes, far too many times he's sitting there having to run for his life and scramble for his life and trying to do his best YOLO impressions. You only live once, throw it deep. And that son of a bitch even showed you within those moments just how spectacular he could be. But it wasn't going to be enough on this night. It's crazy to think about. No team has ever hosted the Super Bowl in their home stadium playing in that game. Leave it to Tom Brady to make that history. Leave it to Tom Brady to be the oldest starting quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Leave it to Tom Brady to win his frickin' 7th ring. Like, it just go on and on and on. And can you imagine right now being these other NFL organizations and looking at the Bucs' performance tonight in the Super Bowl and saying, yeah, I'd rather have Nick Sirianni than Byron Leftwich. Or I'd rather have David Culley than fucking Todd Bowles. Like, this was a banner performance for both of those guys. If you're a Bears fan, of course, this matchup should cause you significant heartburn in a lot of ways. These two coaches in these games, now the last 2 Super Bowl champions, were 2 guys the Bears could have went after in 2013. Andy Reid, they never called. Bruce Arians, they did. They interviewed. He wanted the job, and they wouldn't give it to him. They went with Mark Trestman instead. And even when you look at the quarterbacks, they could have drafted Mahomes. Brady was allegedly interested in Chicago, but he knew goddamn good and well he didn't want to play in that situation for that stupid head coach under that dumb general manager. But here come the Bears fans and other kind of old heads. They're going to talk about, well, this game proves that defense wins championships. Ding dong, dumb dicks. No, the hell it doesn't. Look, I am not trying to sit here and diminish in any way, shape, or form the outstanding defensive performance that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had tonight. You could certainly have made an argument that Devin White was a Super Bowl MVP. But let's be clear here. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers got to this point in time to get to the Super Bowl because of their offense. Their defense is playing a secondary complementary role. It's their offense where they scored 30-plus points in every game in the playoffs, including tonight in the Super Bowl. It's their offense that scored 31 points for 3 quarters and was about this far away, allegedly, from scoring 38. Yes. You could say, well, the defense certainly made it tough for the Chiefs, and it did. And the Chiefs were depleted on offense, but that's no excuse. The stupid crap with Andy Reid's son. Like, you could go on, but the reality is that the Buccaneers are Super Bowl champions, not because of their defense. They're Super Bowl champions because they have the GOAT at quarterback who could still play at a relatively high level. Because they had a shit ton of weapons for him to throw to. He's got freaking one potential Hall of Fame wide receiver in Antonio Brown, who's his third option at receiver. He's got a Pro Bowler in Chris Godwin. He's got another Pro Bowler on the outside in Mike Evans, a potential future Hall of Famer. And he's got a Hall of Fame tight end who's potentially the greatest to ever play the position in Gronk. He's got a Leonard Fournette in the backfield as a former top 5 pick that's rotating in with Rojo, a former second-round pick out of USC in that backfield. And then you're talking about that offensive line that they've invested heavily in. No, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won this Super Bowl because of their offense. If you're going to sit there and say that it comes down to, ooh, defense still wins championships, what in the bluest of blue fucks are you talking about? Because if the Chiefs' offense had done better, the Buccaneers would have felt more urgency and would have scored more points. Or maybe, instead of going for it in that one situation where Rojo didn't get across the line, they kick a field goal, and now they're at 34. And then they might have felt some urgency to have to sit there and try and score some points in the fourth quarter. They might have put up 45 or 48 or damn 50 plus tonight. But you're talking about defense? Look, they had a great performance. Andy Reid laid a big fat nothing burger. How appropriate it's a burger when you're talking about the walrus Andy Reid. Look at this Craig Stadler looking ass. Like, how did you not adjust at all one bit? You knew your offensive line was depleted, so you needed to do things to get the ball into Mahomes' hands quicker. You needed to do things to run more max protect. You needed to do more things to have more structured rollouts and bootlegs and play actions and so forth. And you did none of that. This is not a good play calling performance for Andy Reid. You could certainly sit there and say it wasn't a great night for Patrick Mahomes either, but you could see that he was giving his best. You could see that he was trying to make some big plays. You could see that there were close to some big plays happening, but it wasn't his night either. But when he's running for his damn life pretty much hard all night, it's pretty hard for it to be. But again, the people are going to point to the Bucs defense. Yes, they played a great secondary complementary role. The reason the Tampa Bay Buccaneers made it to the Super Bowl is because of their offense. Period. The reason the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won the Super Bowl tonight was their offense. Period. And to sit there and assert that it was anything else is just stupid, because let me put it to you this way. Let's say the Buccaneers had, let's say, a Bears offense. And maybe they had 21 points on the board in the fourth quarter. Well, the Chiefs in the second half, instead of having to sit there and try and go for it multiple times and not converting, would have kicked field goals. Now all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, it's a 21-15 game. It's a one-touchdown fucking game. That defense doesn't mean shit. And people need to get that out of their damn mind. Get it through your thick fucking skulls. This game, just like last year's game, proves the value of offense. That your offense has to be legit first. Anything you get from the defense is complimentary. It is nice. If you didn't learn that last year, watch it what happened, because the 49ers could only hide Jimmy Glassbutt for so long. And once you got to the fourth quarter, Andy Reid stopped reading it up and he started figuring it out, and the Chiefs offense started cooking and the 49ers couldn't respond. Here in this particular case, it was the Buccaneers offense that was dominant. The Chiefs offense couldn't score. That's why they won the game. I know a lot of you, especially many of you that watch me, are Bears fans, so you ascribe to that bean counting 10 philosophy of, well, you know, it's easier to build an elite defense, and oh my God, it's certainly cheaper to do so. That leaves a lot more money for me to get some of that Perfetti prosciutto down at Lucas's butcher shop. But I'm going to tell you this much. Ding dong, that's wrong. Not only are some of you going to dilute yourself by thinking, oh, the Bears beat this team, that makes them the real champions. So that means they're really close to that Carson Wentz deal that's rumored to go through. We'll put them close and they ain't going to do shit. This Bucs team is going to be coming back next year. With a Brady trying to win his 8th goddamn ring because he's greedy as hell. Offense is what wins championships now. People need to get this through their thick skulls. If the Buccaneers really needed to tonight, they could have scored 40 plus. Let's not kid ourselves. They knew because the Chiefs were depleted on that offensive line and their defense was playing good complementary football because they were able to get some pass rush because the Chiefs' offensive line was a sieve all night. They just kind of packed it in and played it safe in the fourth quarter, which was kind of the smart thing to do at that point. I mean, this was an incredible performance tonight. Certainly not a fun game to watch. Certainly not a fun game to watch. Like I said, this reminds me a lot of those 80s and 90s Super Bowls is what this really had the vibe or the feel of. But just absolutely incredible that with all that happened this year, it's even amazing that we got to a Super Bowl with no games canceled, no games missed. Got all the regular season games in, got all the playoff games in, got to the Super Bowl, didn't have any significant absences like Brady or Mahomes or any other key superstar players due to COVID. Feels like a miracle in and of itself. But this is just a bragging rights game for Brady. That son of a bitch. You always hear Father Time is undefeated. Well, when's Father Time going to get some good clean shots in on TB12? Christ almighty. He might be back in again next year. For the Chiefs, time to smart. You can sit there and try and build up your defense, but your defense needs a lot of work. Might be easier to invest in your offensive line more to beef up that important key critical area and give it another run next year, and you could potentially be right back here in this same spot again. But congrats to the Kansas City Chiefs and Chiefs Kingdom. It's really, really hard to repeat. And it'll be up to you whether you're going to have a Patriots type of thing here where you win one, you lose one, and then you're back to win one the next year. Or is this going to be kind of a Seattle Seahawks type of situation where this is a crippling loss that you never truly recover from? Time will tell. For the Buccaneers, for Pewter Nation, whatever the hell you guys call yourselves, congrats. You bought yourselves a championship. I don't mean that as a slight. You got Tom Brady to come, and son of a bitch, you went all in. You didn't go all in by saying, hey, we're going to have a defense and a running game and just game manage. No, you said, we're bringing in the GOAT. We're going to give them all types of effing weapons on offense, and we're going to outscore people, and that's exactly what the hell you did. If you're going to go all in, like the Buccaneers did, you go all the F in. Boring game, but fascinating nonetheless. Congrats to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Super Bowl 55 champions, and Tom Brady, you son of a gun. You just added to your GOAT legacy. Imagine the brag sheet when it comes time to actually nominate him for the Hall of Fame. Can we just waive the 5-year waiting period and just give him his gold jacket at the Super Bowl? What's the point? Why wait?